It took God putting me on my back for 7 days for me to finally realize, like, wait a second. I just tried to carry all of that burden myself, do it my way. And I didn't even consult you. You were nowhere in the picture. And I was destroying myself and my life all in the name of helping people and serving and right, all this stuff. And he had to really break me down to show me what it meant to surrender and to actually partner with him and live for him and do his work.
Hey, housewives, come on in. You know the dirty dishes are still in the sink from yesterday and the laundry is still in the basket. Pop your AirPods in and make yourself at home here.
I'm Tracy.
I'm Tori. And we are your Unlikely Housewives.
Stepping out in faith and believing that God calls the unlikely, we are here to show you the appreciation and validation you deserve, lead you to authentic relationships, and release you of believing the cultural lies to restore your faith and wellness.
Pull up those high-waisted yoga pants, tighten your top knot, and reheat your coffee for the third time. Turn up the volume, and let's go.
Hey, welcome back.
Welcome back. We are so excited about this. You guys, God is so cool. I mean, we don't speak things into existence. I don't go that route with things, but just sometimes when you're talking about things and then God just goes, oh yeah, let me show you this. Like, it's the hold my beer kind of thing. If God can say that. So Tracy, go ahead and introduce this guest because this one is too cool.
Yes, this one is so fun. And we're just going to be real that this is what we're at right now.
Yeah.
I can't do it anymore.
We're getting out the reading
trying
glasses.
to fake it. Can't fake it anymore, friends, or I might say the wrong words. Okay. Dr. Tabatha is a triple board certified physician, faith-based women's health expert, speaker, and best-selling author who is redefining what it means to truly heal. Her message bridges modern science with biblical truth, helping women understand that their bodies are not broken, they're approaches. What makes Dr. Tabatha different is her ability to connect through patterns, physiology, hormones, identity, and faith in a way that is both deeply practical and transformational. She helps audiences understand the root causes behind hormone chaos, burnout, gut issues, weight struggles, and emotional exhaustion while offering real hope and actionable healing. She empowers women to faith it and not fake it. Welcome to the Unlikely Housewives.
Oh my gosh, that was a great bio. I had no idea.
But now we have to cover everything that was in there. No.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for having me.
We're so glad that this worked out. Okay, so Tracy, give a little background about how this came together and how God just put it all in motion.
I was telling my husband at dinner just a couple weeks ago, just how cool it is that God has used the podcast in these ways. And I'm sure you can relate. You're a podcaster and you're in this world where you're constantly, meeting people, speaking and so forth. And we feel like we don't get to connect necessarily with people just, on the internet, right? We seek them out or we find a certain connection, a level, and God aligns it. Well, this one was something that has been, I think, in the works for a little while. So I'm not on social media, but I have been a huge fan of Candace Cameron Bure for years. DJ Tanner, we can just shout out to her. She's amazing. And especially I've read her, I've had her planner, read her books, devotions, watched her Hallmark movies. I mean, I love her.
She's a little bit of a fangirl.
I am. But I would say that I listen to her podcast and things that way too. And through signing up for, just emails and things, I got notified that she was coming to Kansas City and you were going to be with her. And I was like, wait, but I know Dr. Tabatha and how do I know this name? And it took me a couple of days and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm the one that's behind the scenes in the emails of the Unlikely Housewives and, doing those kinds of things. And I remember one of your publicists or someone had reached out to us in the middle of a season that we batch record some things. And so we'd already pre-recorded. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, well, we'll have to have her next time. Doesn't work out this time. And I text Tori and I was like, oh my gosh, like you were going to be, reached out to our podcast and it didn't work out. And it wasn't even 12 hours later. And you pop in our DMs and you're like, and well, your publicist or somebody, and we're like, hey, she's coming to Kansas City. This would be great for you to be on the podcast. And here we are. I'm like, this is amazing.
God is so good. I love
Yeah.
that. I love it.
Yeah. And so we first off, we're like, hey, we want to connect you and promote you. You're going to be here. We want for local people to come see you. But it's also, you're going on a little tour. So we have friends and listeners all over the country that you might be in their city.
Oh my gosh. I hope people come. It's going to be so much fun and so good. And I just want to give a shout out to God because he's hilarious. I'm just going to tell you, I wanted to be a rock star when I grew up. I envisioned living on a tour bus and living that whole life. And now I get to live on a tour bus with Candace and I'm just like, God, you are so funny. This is not exactly what I envisioned. I envisioned like men and booze and all the fun. And here you give me a Christian woman. But
yeah.
how good is that? Right? I love it.
It is. And isn't it funny? I mean, it goes to, we've always talked about how you can't put God in a box. And
Exactly.
we think that the only way that we're going to end up on a tour bus, is through, of course I'm going to be this pop star, rocker kind of thing. And then he's like, oh, just wait. It's a different kind of tour bus, a little bit more my speed, but so much fun about he very much has a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Tori, tell our listeners, just as before we jump into her story and things, what cities that she's going to be in. Do you still have that?
Yes, I do.
Open?
Okay. So this is perfect because so many of these cities are so close to where our little hubs of Unlikely Housewives are. So this is all in the month of September. So we'll have the link in our show notes. So go check it out because you don't want to miss out. These are all going to sell out faster than you think. So we've got September 9th is going to be in Reading, Pennsylvania. September 10th is Dayton, Ohio. September 11th, Chicago, Illinois. September 12th, Minneapolis. September 16th, St. Louis, Missouri. We've got Kansas City on September 17th. We've got Dallas, Texas on September 18th and Austin, Texas on September 19th. So go check out those links if she's going to be in a city near you. And it would make the perfect excuse to grab a couple of friends, get in the car, get a hotel, split it 4 ways, have a girls' night, and just have fun. Some of the most fun adventures and stories that Tracy and I have are like one night, overnight stays, and just for random things.
Yeah.
So just go and have that one night. You can totally make it happen with your friends. So we'll have the link in our bio.
You did. It just fills you up. I went to one of them last year that she put on and it was incredible. So I'm so honored to be a part of it this year.
Okay. So tell us how you got involved in this, because obviously this is a different, faith. Most people don't connect functional health with faith. And how does that come together? And what kind of part? We've had so many, this last season has taught us so much, especially I think our listeners so much about how our body is not just a clump of cells. Like God actually very clearly ordained and orchestrated things and cells to do specific things and to heal itself if given the right tools and opportunity. And so this is a whole new world for people. But for you, this is what you've been working on and trying to share the message with for years now, right?
Yeah, I had to live through a lot of stuff and I'm not sure how far you want me to go back, but I would love to just share that. I mentioned I was a wild child. I didn't care about school. I lived in detention and Saturday school because I just wanted to talk and enjoy my friends.
You wanted to be a rock star.
I wanted to be a rock star. Big hair, all the things. But by the time I was 16, I was pregnant. And so my life took a wayside turn. I was like, wait, what? And I was put on Medicaid and food stamps and assigned a grumpy old doctor who made it clear that he was getting paid 22 cents on the dollar to take care of me. And I just trusted him. He had the white coat on. I didn't know anything. And I lost my voice. I shut down. I was afraid. And a lot of things were done to me, nothing explained. I had a very traumatic delivery. I had a fourth-degree tear. If anybody has
Mm.
had babies,
Oh.
you know what that means, and it is not good. So at 17, my body was destroyed. I developed a Hashimoto's thyroid storm after delivery. I had radioactive iodine injected into my thyroid. Nothing explained. I just trusted. And by the time I was done with that, God was like giving me this calling of you have got to give women a voice and a choice. You cannot let them go through this. You can't let your daughter go through this. This is not okay. And what does that mean? I didn't even finish high school. I didn't go to 12th grade, but once you've kind of been called, you just start to figure it out. And so I went back, I got my GED. I eventually went into medical school, became a doctor, did all the things. I got all the accolades. I was making all the money, the 401k, all the stability that no one in my family ever had. My mom didn't graduate high school, my grandma didn't. This was a huge achievement, right? But I left God in the delivery room and I went and I did it my way, and I thought my way was the right way, and I found myself so burnt out, so miserable. I couldn't stay awake during lunch. I was falling asleep at my desk. I couldn't remember the people I delivered the night before. I was a destructive hot mess. My back was in so much pain. I couldn't walk away from the OR table one night, and I eventually had back surgery. 6 weeks took to heal, came back, re-injured my 3rd night on call, and I couldn't move. I got stuck in a delivery, and it took God putting me on my back for 7 days for me to finally realize, like, "Wait a second. I just tried to carry all of that burden myself, do it my way, and I didn't even consult you. You were nowhere in the picture, and I was destroying myself and my life all in the name of helping people and serving and right, all this stuff." And he had to really break me down to show me what it meant to surrender and to actually partner with him and live for him and do his work. And so things look a lot different now, but I learned a lot of lessons, and I just feel so compelled to share them with other women because so much of our struggle is absolutely unnecessary. So much of it is self-induced. And if I could just help one woman prevent her next miserable season, I will feel so fulfilled.
Mhm.
You
Yep.
know?
Yep.
So many times that God uses that, and I'm thankful that he uses our mistakes to hopefully bless others to prevent them from doing it.
Isn't that what Unlikely Housewives is?
Yeah, yeah,
Let's
exactly.
just unload our baggage and hope that we help
No,
people.
one person listen, please don't do it this way.
I say that jokingly, but that's only because I can completely relate. And I know she can too, like
Yes.
with what we've walked through. I mean, I have Hashimoto's, I'm early perimenopause into menopause. It's just, wouldn't have been my story if I wasn't, grinding and, not sleeping and doing all the things that, what a hustling woman wants to do or thinks they should do.
Right. Mhm.
Well, I just made a decision one day that I was gonna live a Romans 8:28 life. I was like, "You know what? It's all for my good and his glory. I don't care what it looks like, what I'm going through." I just decided to get into agreement with that scripture right there. I was like,
Mhm.
there's no other way to live. The other way is miserable. All I do is make messes of everything. I've been divorced 3 times. I mean, I don't know how to do stuff without God. And when I finally just realized that and surrendered and decided, even if it seems hard or it seems like another trial and tribulation, you got to count it all joy. You have to, because your character is being developed. You are becoming a better version of yourself. It's actually for your good. I know it doesn't feel good, but as soon as I started to suffer well and understand that, it wasn't as hard anymore. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get something good out of this. I'm not even worried about this fire right now. It's fine. I'm going to come out purified and more gold and whatever. And it was just this perspective, this shift that I had to get mentally to change everything.
Well, and that's what I mean, I that is my life scripture, is that God uses all things for the good of those who love him and who are called according to his purpose. And that makes it so much easier for me to make a mistake. Don't you?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, even if this is not exactly where God wants me, but I think this is where God wants me, I can jump in and go, okay, but he's going to use it if he's like, you did not get that memo right. Like you misread the fine print there, Tori. Like, what were you thinking? But I'm like, he's going to use it anyways. And that's something that I think so many in our generation, but I mean, even kids today, is the perfectionism. I have to get it right the first time. I can't make a mistake. I can't, if I don't get it right, then I'm an absolute failure. And I'm like, no, 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 no. He uses it all. And that's the fun part. And that's where you get to see him show up in ways that you never would have gotten to see him otherwise. Because sometimes it's just like, I'm like, well, there's really no way he can make this better. And then all of a sudden you turn around and a year later, you're like, wouldn't have put that on my bingo card. It's incredible, the type of God, of the compassion that he has, and the God that we serve is just incredible. And and I think those are the things that we have to remind ourselves.
Yeah. And imagine I just spent all of these years, more than a decade, overcoming these hurdles, becoming a doctor, finally having this stability that no one in my family has ever known, and this financial freedom. And God comes to me and he's like, I'm doing a new thing. We're going to let all of that go. We're going to walk away. You're going to study functional medicine, and you're going to help women in a different way. You're going to give up being a surgeon because you think that's your identity and you think you are the one healing people with your hands. And I'm actually the healer. And I'm just like, wow, the humility that it took for me to just trust him and say,
Mhm.
okay, well, I'm the major breadwinner in the family. How are we going to pay the bills? What are we going to do? But I just trusted. And like you said, I just took messy action. I was like, if it's not right, he'll redirect me. He'll pivot me. He'll turn me. He'll
Mhm.
correct me. He'll clean up the mess just like he always does. And
Yeah.
I just have to get into action. That is me showing him I have faith in him. That's what,
Mhm.
to me, that's what it means when it says faith without works is dead. You have to be in action. That proves your faith. Like, you can sit here and be like, yeah, God, I trust you. But if you're not actually doing anything, you don't really trust him, right? So I had to
Mhm.
So
trust that
true.
somehow the bills are going to get paid. The virtual practice is going to get created. The patients are going to come. The podcast
Yeah.
is going to take off. All the things. I'm just like, it has to. You told me to do it, so let's
And
go.
how, when in that step of surrender, how was that just a like cold turkey? I'm writing my resignation letter, stepping away, and then I'm going to go get my functional medicine, certification. I'm going to do that. Or was it pieces like, all right, you realizing, okay, functional medicine is where he wants me. So I'm going to start doing that while I'm slowly backing off from the surgeries, and I'm slowly backing up, because I think so many people feel like, well, he's telling me to surrender. So I've just got to drop everything and then just hands out, which is great. And sometimes he does ask us to
Yeah,
do that.
sometimes.
But at the other times, he's also teaching us patience. We get so excited. I may be one of those where I get so excited about, I want to do this now. Okay, I'll drop everything, Lord. I'll do it. I'll do it. And then he's like, can you just go get the certification for, like, let's just one thing at a time, Tori. I have to build you. I have to build you into that person. You're not there yet. So let's have the patience to do this first.
I
How was it
think,
for you?
yeah, before I share how it was for me, I wanna encourage women, like, get into that deep conversation and get real with God, because a lot of women, what I see is they go for the next certification and the next accomplishment because they never feel ready or prepared or enough or able. And so it's actually like working against you. It really is just a distraction for you to be bold and step out in faith. And so you have to discern that for yourself. Like, wait a second, am I actually being disobedient by I kept wanting to go to seminary school because education is where I feel comfortable. Give me another
Yeah.
certification. And God
Mhm.
was like, no, you're not going to seminary school. You're starting fast to faith. You're starting this sisterhood of faith based women. I'm like, I can't quote the Bible, God. I can't get up there and do that. I can't talk about
Mhm.
you. I don't know your word by heart. He's like, I don't care. I'm equipping you in the moment for today. I'm going to feed you every day. I'm going to give you your manna for the day and you're going to get to the next day. And I lived in this manna season for a long time, trusting that I was going to get to the point where I did know the Bible. I did know his word. I could let it roll off of my tongue. But I had to take really scary, frightened action every single day until I got to that point. So, you know, as an OBGYN, I had to take 4 months off of work after that failed back surgery. I had to figure out myself because the orthopedic surgeon was threatening rods and screws in my back. I was 40 years old at this point. We're just going to put the hardware in there. You might herniate above and below and need more surgery. And I was like, no, we are done. This doesn't make any sense. Why is this happening? And that is when I went back to God. I just sought him out. I was like, I need to understand why my body is failing me when I'm serving people. I'm doing what you're calling me to do. And he's like, you're treating your body like a garbage can. You're not treating it like the vessel that it is of the Holy Spirit. First Corinthians 19. You're not. I was living on Mountain Dew and M&M,
Oh my
at the
gosh,
nurse's station, donuts in the break room, whatever I could do to have energy for the next hour. That was like, I was too busy caring about other people. And he was like, that's not actually how I called you to live. And so I really started to do this deep dive of what does God say about our bodies? What does he think about them? Does he care about them? Because I was raised in my religion to believe that it's vanity. It's, self-centeredness. It's shallow. It's superficial. You shouldn't care about your body. And that's not what God told me. He was like, if I didn't care about your body, I wouldn't have made it so beautiful and so intricate. I wouldn't have come to the earth and lived as a human in a body if I didn't care about
True.
it. I wouldn't taught you how to steward it, how to fast, how to nourish it, how to overcome the fleshly desires. And he just started downloading all of this wisdom to me. And I was like, wow, okay, what do I do with all of that? Right. And he's like, you have to teach women how to nourish their soul. They're eating to fill that void of where I should be. You have to teach them that. And so, really understanding our flesh and how our spirit is in opposition of it most of the time. It's like, have you ever heard the story of the grandpa telling the boy about the two wolves inside, the nice wolf and the mean wolf? And the little
Mhm.
boy is like, well, which wolf
One
wins?
pins.
It's the one that you feed.
Feed.
Absolutely. So are you feeding faith or are you feeding fear? And so much of us feeding ourselves is feeding our feelings, numbing ourselves, getting rid of the stress. It's all these coping mechanisms, and it actually has nothing to do with nourishing our body. We're afraid. And so we just have to start getting more intentional and figuring out, why am I carrying extra weight? Why am I reaching for that glass of wine at 5 o'clock as soon as I walk in the door? Like, why am I doing all of these things? And why am I not going to God for this first? And that starts to shift everything essentially.
Mhm.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because one of the things that I personally, and I was just talking to somebody about this too, was that so it's been 2.5 years since I stopped drinking. I drink very rarely, but as because during COVID, got into the habit of having that glass of red wine every night and just this is my relax. I mean, I had 2 kids at home where I was not used to, I was all told all of a sudden that I needed to homeschool this kindergartner and a preschooler, and that rocked my world. And but just that having that glass of wine, and it was something that I could look forward to. It was something that I was like, well, yeah, that's, it's fine. I'm just relaxing at the end of the day. I mean, I wasn't drinking to get drunk. I wasn't drinking to just for liquid courage, as some people, it was just a matter of like, well, this is my stress reliever. And about 2.5 years ago, I was given an opportunity to do something. And during that time, I decided that I wasn't going to drink. I was just like, I can give this up. I'm doing lots of labs at the time. And I was just like, this is just something that I don't need to do. And it was during that time that God was like, see, you were using this as a crutch. Instead of seeking me at the end of the day and going, I can find my rest, or just even just numbing, like just you're sitting there trying to numb yourself. And, we can do that with our phones or whatever too. But he was just like, you're finding that from something else. And so it was after that season was done and I got through that. And I was like, I don't feel the need anymore. I've adopted non-alcoholic beer. It's my beverage of choice, but it's fascinating on just the habit itself that has become so normalized. Well, of course I have a glass before bed and evening, when all science shows is that it's terrible for you. It doesn't help you sleep. It spikes your blood sugar. The lie that it has been marketed and PR'd, holy freaking cow. But I mean, it's just something as simple as just like it's a little crutch, but we tell ourselves it's totally fine. Not a big deal. You're not an alcoholic. You could give it up tomorrow, but we're just using it for this evening. And you're like, oh, wait, no, even though it's just a habit, it's still not a great habit.
No, and it's actually the number one modifiable risk factor for breast cancer. So if you don't want breast cancer, I would invite you to try 30 days without alcohol. You will feel so much better. You will sleep so much better. You will start losing weight. But it's going to take a minute because it's a habit. Like you mentioned, it's just that's your routine now. I'm going to numb out and veg out from the day. And people do it with Netflix or whatever their vice is. We all have our vices. And we're called to fight against that and to overcome it and to make our flesh submit to our spirit. So it really is something you can do, but you got to invite God into it or it's going to really be hard. But if you just, God, help me with this, he will remove those desires from your heart. Ask him to replace it with his desires for your heart. He will.
Question. You say there's something so modifiable to reduce the risk of breast cancer. What about for men? Because I mean, it's
also colon cancer, prostate cancer. It drives cancer because we have 2 phases in our liver that help us break down something and get it out of our body. It does this with estrogen, it does this with Tylenol, Benadryl, and alcohol, and everything. It's so alcohol starts out as ethanol alcohol, but if you've ever taken a chemistry class, you know that things change into different molecules when they've been heated or, had a carbon removed or whatever. It turns into acetaldehyde. That is toxic. And some of us don't have good phase 2 detox pathways in our liver because we have an MTHFR mutation or a COMT mutation or something like that, a little genetic SNP. And so that acetaldehyde level builds up quick. And that little carcinogen, that toxin, it starts to wreak havoc through your body. And you'll know it because you get hangovers easy or you get a red face, you feel flushed, you don't feel well after a little bit of alcohol, or you're really sensitive to medications, things like that, or you need extra B vitamins, things like that. You've been told like, hey, my liver gets congested. And so that makes it even worse. And what women need to understand is every time you ask your liver to break down that alcohol, it has to put estrogen on the back burner and say, "I'll get to you later after I deal with this alcohol." And so your estrogen builds up and backs up, and you get into a state of estrogen dominance. I see this all the time with women who drink regularly. So you're growing fibroids and endometriosis and breast cysts, and you're carrying extra weight on your hips and thighs and all of these estrogen dominant symptoms or melasma like hyperpigmentation on your skin because your poor liver is too busy breaking down other things and your estrogen's not being dealt with. So there's so many manifestations that we don't even know, so many downstream effects that your conventional OBGYN isn't telling you. And it's not because they don't care, it's because literally they don't know. I did not
Mhm.
learn this in medical school or
Right.
residency.
Yeah.
An OBGYN is a surgeon. I've spent 4 years in the OR doing a hysterectomy 4 different ways, doing robotic surgery, doing C-sections and vaginal deliveries and procedures in the office. I was not studying hormone balance and the intricacies of gut health on that or the adrenal system, none of it. I had to go on and learn that after the fact. So we're asking the wrong people for help. They don't know actually how hormones are impacted by the rest of our body. And a lot of the stuff that we're doing to our body is making it worse without us realizing it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I back years ago, like 5 years ago when I started my journey with the hormones and all the things, I was following Dr. Mary Haver Claire, and that was when she was talking about I remember one of the things that just shocked me was just how much information, studies, and things that are out there, trials that have been done all on things for pregnant women, it's like, but not on women, menopause, etc. Not everybody gets pregnant, but every woman goes through menopause. And the discrepancy in these areas is just absolutely crazy. And I was told I've gone into the doctor and I was told either I can put you on birth control. I was 41
Mhm.
at the time, I think. I'll put you on birth control or you can have a hysterectomy. And I was like, well, I don't want either of those options. Path number three. And path number three is, hey, women, guess what? You get to go figure it out yourself. And that's the journey that I've been on. But I would say, there's more women like you, more doctors, more functional women that are coming into this space. It is getting, I would say, much more of a voice overall for women in the perimenopause and menopause phase, and just women in our second half of life, not just focused on our childbearing years and our, being pregnant. And, that all of that is obviously good and important. But I got to go back and joke. So much of this information needs to be taught at the younger years. I literally did drink Mountain Dew and ate a pack of M&Ms. That was my college breakfast for 4 years. What did I even do to my body, in college? It's just all the things and then you don't figure it out until you're like, "Oh, I should probably take care of my body because I would like to get pregnant one day." And it's like fast forward and you're like, "Let's just turbo speed heal my body," and then
Right, right.
I didn't
Exactly. I
I
know.
did
I
something.
was I was taught in med school, just eat 1,500 calories, that'll help you maintain your weight, and so literally I would calculate, can I eat this blizzard for dinner and stay under my 1,500 calories? I had no clue as a physician, no
Yeah.
clue,
Well, I
and
will say with Weight Watchers too, and I'm not knocking on them. They helped me lose 30 pounds before I got married. So like that was good. But I did figure out how to save enough points for my drinking nights because I was in my 20s and my drinking nights and all the things. And I was like, oh, I still lost weight. Great. This is a good path. No, that didn't seem to, it was not sustainable.
oh, it's so heartbreaking. Yeah, we are not like a basic math equation. We are a major chemistry experiment. There is so much chemistry going
We
on
have to
in the
agree.
trillions of cells in our body at different times in different areas of our body. And we just do not respect that. We have no respect
Mhm.
for how intricate and amazing it really, really is. And I did have the blessing of having crazy heavy periods while I was going through the back injury and all the things. And, I went through the typical stuff. Like you said, I went to a colleague. I couldn't do the birth control pill. It made me so depressed. I had no libido. I didn't like my husband on it. So I got an IUD. I was like, let me just get the Mirena. That'll stop the heavy periods. Ladies, I was suicidal on the Mirena. I was
Mm.
thinking about jumping out of my window at my office. I took it out myself. That's how desperate I got. And
Mm.
so I was like, okay, apparently I need to go have an endometrial ablation. I went there and, had the endometrial biopsy, did all the things you ladies have to go through. And I was like, oh, this is bad. And she's like, yeah, we can do it, but I'm going to consent for a laparoscopy just in case, I burn a hole in your uterus. I want to make sure and we'll check for injury. And at that moment, I was like, I know exactly what happens in the OR. I'm not signing up for any of this. Goodbye. And I decided not to have surgery, and I was like, there has to be a root cause reason for my heavy periods because I just had figured out there was a root cause reason for my back pain and my herniated discs, and it was my diet, all the inflammation from my gut, it was my stressed out life, my not exercising or moving my body, and so I started studying functional medicine for hormones, and I realized, oh my gosh, stress is like the number one infiltrator of hormone imbalance. Because when you are making cortisol all day to handle all the stress, it literally takes your progesterone and turns it into cortisol. So you get into this progesterone deficient state, and then I had estrogen dominance, number one, because I had those genetic mutations and I wasn't metabolizing and breaking it down. And then when I wasn't on call, I was drinking like a fish just to handle how miserable I was. And so I was like getting into this hyperestrogen dominant state and progesterone deficiency, and that was driving the heavy periods. And so I was like, okay, let me look upstream to the root cause of what's driving this and work on that. And within 3 months, I had resolved my heavy periods that I had been struggling with for 2 years, like having accidents while in deliveries. Thankfully, I was covered up and gowned up, bleeding through myself, that my OBGYN friends couldn't figure out, that I couldn't figure out. Like, that's maddening to me at this point. I'm like, what? And, I tried to change the system from the inside. I tried to do functional medicine Fridays. I think it lasted 2 months, and my administrators were like, "Nope, you're not making enough money. You gotta go back and do more surgeries. We can't do this." And that's when I finally left that world. I was like, I can't in good conscience keep handing out birth control pills and doing more surgery. That is not what women need. So once you start to realize and something, you can't go back, right?
Right.
Mm.
Okay, so my question is that if you ask probably 10 women, are you stressed? 9 out of 10 are going to say yes. So
Mhm.
it's not that we don't know that we're stressed. We absolutely know that we're stressed. So with that being the baseline is let's just assume we're all stressed because we are.
Yeah.
How where do you tell a woman to start with
Yeah.
that being she knows that she's stressed. She feels like adding anything else or trying to do anything else is just going to add more stress. So when you're in that stress state and it's like, all right, I just need to start with something to get baby steps to start to lower this or to get to a more manageable thing where I don't feel as stressed. So then it's not as hard for me to reach out to a functional doctor and be like, okay, now that I feel like I can take on more. Cause it's not easy when you start realizing that, okay, I'm not going to have the ultra processed food. That means I have to cook. So
Yeah.
like so like, what would you suggest for somebody who is, I am stressed. I know that my cortisol levels are probably through the roof. How do I start something and to take off this and to begin the process?
Yeah, I love that question. And I find there's 2 types of women, or maybe 3. There's the one who's like, yeah, I know I'm stressed, but if I try to do anything about it, I'm going to be more stressed because that's just adding more to my plate. And then there's the woman who's like, I'm stressed, but it's fine. I can handle it. Because mentally, we can oftentimes handle it, but our physiology is still responding in the way that it was created to respond. So your physiology is not handling it. And that's why you're ending up with autoimmune disease and fibroids and heavy periods.
Oh, that's
And
a whole other question I have for you. We can talk. That's going to be another episode I'm going to have you
okay.
on for, because I don't think I'm the one person in the world who doesn't think a woman should be president. And I don't think I think it's because biologically our bodies are not meant to handle that kind of stress. And not to say that a woman wouldn't be great, but like you just said, physically, we mentally like, oh, I got this. But our bodies are dying from the inside because of that. So, anyways,
Right.
that'll be a part 2 one day.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you pay attention to your cycle at all, if you're not on birth control, you can't be on hormonal birth control, or you can't really understand your cycle because it's a fake cycle. That's a whole nother episode. But if you have paid attention, you will know that there's a week where you feel unstoppable. You're signing up for the
Mhm.
marathon and all the things.
Mhm.
And then there's a week where you're like, Netflix, ice cream, leave me alone, don't talk to me. So you're absolutely right. We are designed differently. We are not little men. And so we have to start to respect that and work with it and not against it. We've been trained all our lives to just shut it down, quiet it, ignore it. And that's what birth
Mhm.
control pills do. But that just leads to longer term problems. So when it comes to stress, there's a couple different things we need to understand. One is that there's internal stressors and then there's external stressors. Internal stressors are really important and they're often unrecognized. Those are things like chronic gut infections you don't know you have, or a viral reactivation infection like Epstein-Barr when you had
Mhm.
mono at 17 and now you have chronic fatigue at 35. It's because you have this internal stressor happening, or your mindset, your beliefs, the way that you think and talk to yourself. You're so fat, you're so ugly, you're never going to get promoted, you're never going to lose weight. That internal stressor is absolutely impacting your physiology, because when you think a thought, it creates a feeling, and the feeling are just a bunch of chemical responses that the chemicals were made from that thought, and they go throughout your body and your cells respond to those chemicals. And so, if you are constantly speaking death and defeat over your health, then you're going to have a lot of destruction going on in the cells. And so, this internal stressor is a really big deal, and nobody wants to acknowledge it, or they're just absolutely unaware of it. I did this for 40 some years before I realized it. It wasn't until I started meditating at lunch. This was how I got control of my stress. I started listening to a meditation app for 10 minutes at lunch. I was like, I can do 10 minutes. And he was like, close your eyes, just be aware of your thoughts. What are you saying to yourself? And that is when I realized I am a bully. I am so mean. I wouldn't talk to my worst enemy the way I talk to myself. What is wrong with me? And that is when I really started to realize the impact that my mind was making on my health. I believed that I was going to live in chronic pain. I believed I was exhausted and there was no way out of it. I believed this is just my lot in life. This is just how it is. Like, I got this from my grandma and my aunts. We all have bad knees, like just all the lies. And once I realized that, that was like my first step to freedom and actually getting healthy. I was like, wait a second. If these are lies and I start speaking the truth, I can change everything. So
Mhm.
that stressor to me is the most important. Yes, you don't like your boss, and that's a big deal that you feel miserable going to work, or you're like on the verge of divorce with your partner and all of those things. But external circumstances are always going to be there. If you read any Old Testament, you're going to quickly see that
Mhm.
life is rough. It's not fair. Like, it cracks me up when little kids are like, that's not fair. I'm like, life is not fair, honey. I
Yep.
promise you. So, the
Mhm.
quicker you can stop worrying about your circumstances and worry about How am I responding? What am I thinking about this? What am I believing about what just happened? And make sure that your internal dialogue is right. You will handle all of the stress so differently. If you could
Mhm.
just study the book of James and be like, yep, all these trials, all these tribulations, I count it all joy. It's all working for my good. Like, you just won't be rocked in the same way. Your physiology won't be impacted in the same way. You could have 2 women in the same storm have a totally different outcome. I just think of
Mhm.
Jesus sleeping on the boat with his pillow. I love that they add the little detail, like he had his cushion because he was so comfortable in this miserable storm. Like, that's what he wants for us, and it's so hard
Mhm.
to get there. It's impossible to get there without him. So you ask, what's my advice? My advice is start your day with Jesus. I don't care if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes. You have got to get the word in your brain. The word needs to be what's being recited over and over in your mind.
Mhm.
Speak that truth over your brain until it's on repeat. And I love worship music because it does this so quickly for you. Those songs are just playing in the background all day, and they start to rewire your brain. And Romans 12:2 starts to turn into this prescription of, yeah, I'm just rewiring my mind with the word of God. And then stuff isn't as stressful, and you don't have to try so hard. I think we want it to be harder than it needs to be.
Well, I think that
That's a
comes
very
from
good
all the
point.
distractions and everything. I haven't been on social media for almost 3 years now, which is crazy. But the point of what it was when I was on, I was searching for answers for myself and I had a lot of information to figure it out. You know, take the distractions away and then I have a little bit more peaceful time and then I'm reading and then it's like all of a sudden I'm realizing that, oh, I have control over my nervous system. Oh, I could be doing the meditations. Oh, I could be just going on walks. Oh, like doing the things that I needed to do, but I was out there seeking so much information. And I think that's normal. Like there's so much at our fingertips right now, whether it's your health or your relationships or you need boundaries or whatever it is you're looking for, you can go find the information that you needed on versus going to the word, and spending time with the Lord.
Yeah, and I just want to call something out because honestly, I was afraid to read the Bible. I was raised Catholic in a way that you receive the word, like you hear it from the priest. That's it. You don't go and have a relationship with Jesus. That's not part of it. And so this concept was really kind of foreign to me of, wait, I read the Bible, interpret it and understand it. It's not spoon fed to me, but I heard Joyce Meyer say, you got to quit having secondhand faith. And that just
Yeah.
spoke so deeply to me. She's like, you got to read the word. You have to hear from God for you
Mhm.
personally. And once I made that decision of, okay, I'm going to dive into this big, scary book and I'm going to figure it out. And God was so kind and gentle and just started revealing stuff because I was asking him to. I was like, show me, Lord, help me understand how this connects. Where are you in these scary, crazy stories? Like, this seems wild to me. And like, my favorite is the Jesus Bible because it'll tell you where Jesus is in through the Old Testament, and then it doesn't feel so toxic and terrible and like everybody's gonna die in war and famine, you know? I
Yeah.
just like, you have to get in it for yourself and cultivate that relationship for yourself, and if you ask him, he will show up. He's like a excited little puppy. He's just waiting to love on you and give you all the attention. He just wants your attention.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and I'll give another shout out to one of our favorite things was the Bible recap.
Mhm.
And Tracy did that 2 years ago. I did it last year and she was the ideal student. And she has quiet time every morning, which good for her. Really happy for you, Tracy. But some of us that just morning is not the best time. And so what she would read the selection and then she'd watch the 7 little minute video and it was great for her. And then she bullied me into doing it the next year and then she quit on me. But that's besides the point. What I
I had to get you started.
she did have to get me started. But I'm so glad because I did do it last year.
Mhm.
But what I found is that in the Bible app, you can have the Bible app because that's how I tracked it. In the Bible app, I had it read it to me. So while I was doing
Yes.
my hair and my makeup, I'm listening to the word of God. I'm not sitting down and reading it because that's just not
Mhm.
it. This is
Yep.
how it worked for me for that season. And then I would listen to the 7-minute video, but just listening to it gives you such a better understanding. And it's not, my husband would joke and he'd be like, "Did you really read the Bible in a year?" And I go, "Yes, I did," because it's an audiobook. I mean, we give each other crap all the time, but it's, yeah, just getting the word of God in you.
Yeah.
And then, two, one of the greatest things about that is also then when you have the word of God, you've listened to it and you continue to listen to it. That's when you can discern when somebody says something and you can go, "Wait a second,
Mhm.
that doesn't match the character of God." You have a much better understanding. Even if you don't, you're like, "That
Mhm.
doesn't sound right." Follow your heart. You're like, "Wait, wait, wait, wait. That doesn't track with certain things that
Oh, the
you're."
heart is deceitful more than anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's just little things like that he gifts you with of just if you're obedient. But if you don't listen to it or know, like you said, your body is a vessel and a temple.
Mhm.
But if you're hearing other people say, things and you're like, "Wait, but God says I'm fearfully and wonderfully made."
Yeah.
There's so much that he gives you just from having you hearing his word and recognizing it. So
I'm so
I,
glad you said that. I actually tell women in my group, if you are having trouble sleeping, especially if you're waking up and you can't fall back asleep, I turn on my Holy Bible app and I just listen to the Bible, like you said, until I fall
Mhm.
back asleep. And at
Mhm.
first I was like, is it okay to fall asleep to the Bible? And God was like, I absolutely want you to use
Mhm.
this to fall back asleep. And so,
Yeah.
I might fall asleep during John and wake up during Colossians, and it's fine. What's getting in is getting in. And I think
Mhm.
it's so powerful if we could just start to rewire and get that ingrained in our brain as the foundation of our thoughts and our beliefs, everything starts
Yeah.
to shift because, like you said, now you know what his voice sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
the most important thing. You cannot be deceived in the same way when you know who's talking to you. It
Yeah.
makes all the difference in the world. All of a sudden, the lies are just so much more obvious. And one of the things I love is Dr. Russ Irwin talks about this, how the devil is a counterfeit. He doesn't have the creative nature and the ability to create the way God does and that we do. And so he just replicates and distorts things. He's a
Mhm.
counterfeit God. And so he can make things look and sound really close with just one little mess up, right? And so the
Mhm.
more clarity you have on who God is and what he says and directs you toward, it's just so much more obvious. Oh my gosh, that's a total counterfeit. You got 99% right, but goodbye.
Yeah.
And
It's like
I just
seeing the AI
I was
version,
just gonna say
the
that.
pictures, right? Of when you
right,
see an AI picture,
exactly.
you're like, "Oh, wait, that hand has 7 fingers. That's not right." You're just able to notice it more. But I mean, and the Bible tells us too is that Satan can disguise himself as a angel of
Mhm.
light.
Mhm.
Like again, but he's going to have 7 fingers. I mean, it's one of those, but you have to pay attention enough and know it enough to go, "Wait, that doesn't track. That's not right." And that certainly doesn't follow the character of God. But I do love your tip on the falling asleep to the Bible.
Mhm.
And if you haven't, it's totally worth whatever Audible makes you pay for it. Is the Bible that is the voices of actors. John Caviezel is the voice of Jesus. So in the New Testament, you've got James Earl Jones, you've got different act like John
Is it
Voight's
a
in it.
new app? It's
No,
not the
it's
version app?
no,
It's a
it's not
oh.
in the U
No.
version. It's an audiobook, but it's really cool because then they're acting it out in their voices and they're such good storytellers as
Mhm.
they are. But it is kind of cool to listen to it as different voices and you can hear it that way you can also tell the conversations that people are having too, which I have found is kind of cool. So anyways, that's
Very
another
cool.
version of it.
Well, before we have to wrap up here, because I know we only have a little bit more time, I would love for you to tell our listeners, obviously, maybe fast forward however you'd like to go from you went to become functional med, started that career, and then you became an author, and now you are a coach. And we've got a lot more of what you do and what you offer to tell our listeners.
Oh my goodness. Yes. And sorry about my dog in the background. She just wants to be
No,
part of the conversation.
he's so cute. I can see the tail wagging in the
Yeah,
back,
she's like,
which is
"Hi,
adorable.
Mama."
And
Yeah, it's
normally
lunchtime for her.
I have my two very large dogs. I don't know if you saw one of them earlier, but we call them the unlikely housewives mascots
Yeah.
because
Oh,
they
I
just
love it.
randomly show up.
Yeah.
But yes, so we're
Okay.
big dog lovers here. You're fine.
Yes. So Fast to Faith was downloaded to me by God by about 4 years ago. And it started out as an intermittent fasting program, a progressive fast that leads up to a 3-day water fast. And it's all based on a practice called Lectio Divina, where you meditate on one scripture each morning for 5 or 10 minutes. And you really start to hear from God and journal. And that was really transformative. And then the sisterhood started. The women just were supporting each other, praying over each other, and it just grew into such a beautiful community of women healing together and having these transformations. And then God downloaded to me that I'm supposed to start a coaching academy and actually certify women to help women through the program. So now we have almost 50 coaches at this point, and watching women walk alongside other women saying, I'm 6 steps ahead of you. You can do this. I got through it. I'm going to walk with you. It is the coolest thing. It fills my heart. God is so good. And it's like women are finding purpose in their pain, in their struggles. And going and helping other women is just so rewarding because you're like, no, you're going to get through it. I'm actually here on the other side. You're going to get through this fire. I promise you. And it's so it's blown me away seeing what he's doing. And it never would have happened if I didn't just decide to do it his way and just stop doing it my way. And so it does take surrender. It takes obedience and doing things that seem crazy and reality's not matching the vision he's giving you, and you're just trusting like, okay, and now I'm going on tour with Candace Cameron Bure. Like, what? God, really? But that's how good he is. So I would just encourage women, keep trusting. And if you are feeling discouraged, you need to get around different women. You need to be around women
Amen.
that are calling you
Yeah.
higher and inspiring you and showing you to have hope and believing in your big, crazy visions because he gave them to you and they're going to manifest in reality. The Lord's Prayer says, in heaven as on earth, like it starts in the spiritual realm. It has to come here. It takes a minute. We have to have faith and believe for it to appear. And so I know somebody got blessed by this episode today. I'm so grateful for you ladies, truly.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes.
It's
Thank
been
you to your obedience.
I know. I said you've been a blessing to us. And so real quick, I'm going to read over these dates again so people can definitely get these on their calendar and be looking, at least find one that is closest to you. We've got Reading, Pennsylvania is September 9th, Dayton, Ohio, September 10th, Chicago, Illinois is September 11th, Minneapolis is September 12th, September 16th is St. Louis, Missouri, September 17th is Kansas City, Kansas, September 18th is Dallas, Texas, and September 19th is Austin, Texas. And you can get those tickets on the link that we're going to have here in the show notes. And like Tracy just said, we just want to say thank you. I'm sure way back when in that moment of surrender, you didn't see it all and it felt hard and scary. But because you chose obedience and because you chose to keep showing up and keep listening, we are so incredibly thankful. And the amount of women that you have blessed and continue to bless through that is just evident. So we just wanted to say thank you so much for doing that. So,
oh my gosh, thank you. And thank you for promoting the tour because it really is for all women. And I would encourage you, bring your moms, bring your daughters. I remember my mom took me to a Christian Women's Club luncheon when I was young, and she probably shouldn't have brought me. I was young, but I sat there and I watched that speaker give her talk, and something deep in my soul said, "You're going to do that someday." So imagine like the seeds that you're planting. You just don't
Yeah.
know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so good.
So good.
Thank you, ladies.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Until next time, housewives. Bye.
Whether we made you laugh or cry today, we pray you feel appreciated, bolder and braver than yesterday, stronger and more faithful for tomorrow, and living in who you were made to be today.
Join our online community on Facebook, link in the show notes, and be sure to review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you enjoy listening. Until next time, housewives, we give you permission to walk confidently, free, and to be intentional in your slippers or stilettos.